Hi, I'm RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're back working on the fabulous BBX from Tamiya. Now, I've done a few videos on this. I did an unboxing and a chassis build video. So if you haven't seen those, I'll put a link up here. Go check those out. But in this episode, the plan is that we've got to cut out all the body, paint it up, fit all the decals. Also, I've got to bring the electronics to life, as I've got to do a bit of soldering and fit a servo and get it up and running. Then we're going to take it for a little bit of a blast. Nothing too heavy going, as this is going off to a winner of the raffle. I think it's got another 12 days or so as of the filming of this video. So if you're interested in this one and you would like it, there's a link in the description if you'd like to enter to try and win it. Right, I think that pretty much covers everything. So all we've got to do is crack on and get it finished. Okay, so we've got to do the body, and there's quite a few parts to the BBX, and cutting it out does take quite a bit of effort. There's some real tight little corners that you've got to get into, and I used a file to file it down to try and smooth the edges out. Once you've done all that, obviously you've got to clean it to get that fixing agent off it. So just some standard washing up liquid is good enough. Then let it dry. Make sure you get all the water out of it. Don't just jump into painting it. There is a little bit that needs to be masked off on this, which is like the sort of windscreen area. There is an actual sticker for it, but I decided I was going to leave it clear and smoke it. Now the color, I wanted to do something that was a bit more retro to kind of match the car itself, and I hadn't seen any BBXs using this color, so I thought, hey, give it a go. And I am actually really chuffed that I tried it. Now the idea was to go for something like this. Not only is it kind of a vintage color, but I thought it would then make all the decals pop, especially the kind of orange, red and yellow stripe that's on the BBX. There's a little bit finicky, but you get there in the end. As for the roof, I did that in bright gunmetal just to have a bit of a contrast. It does say to do it in silver, but I'm a big fan of gunmetal, so I thought, hey, I'll do that. Plus, I thought that color would complement the body color itself. Now, we can't really argue with Tamiya. They make such stunning bodies, and this one is no exception. It fits the actual chassis really well, and it just looks really nice. Now we finished all the painting up, we can turn our attentions to the decals, and I love these stripes. The vibrancy of them, it really goes well against the color that I chose. Now the ones that are on the top of the body in silver, they're a little bit faint, but everything else really pops. The 45 is a bit of a challenge to fit, as that bend has a bit of a concave bit on the top, so I used a hairdryer to try and help smooth that out. It doesn't take too long to get all the actual decals on, and it just looks proper retro. Now, as I did a smoke on the windscreen bit, I actually put a decal underneath which would show through. Another little tip, if you're going to do the lights, I put the decal sticker on the inside of the lens and just pushed it into place. That way, when you look at them in real life, you'll notice there's that glass cover over the front, which just makes it a little bit more realistic. Now, the driver, you can spend ages working on that, and I did. Now, I swapped it out and put a brushed GT motor in this one, so I had to solder it up. A little bit of a challenge when I've actually fitted everything and all the roll cages in. Also, I have to fit a servo, which I didn't have at the time, but I managed to find. Now, swapping the servo out wasn't too much of a challenge, but working on the motor means you've got to take the whole back end of the car off again. As for the driver, well, I sanded down the edges and I thought I'm going to do something a bit retro, so I went with this real vibrant gold. Now, if you want to get rid of the join line that goes across the head, I use a little file. I super glue the head together, then file it down a little bit, and then I use some filler primer. And that gets rid of that whole line, which really lifts the helmet of the guy. Now, my painting is not the best, but it's passable, I guess. Well, that's the last thing that needs to be done. So let's fit it in the car, fire it up, and then take it for a spin. So there you go, after many hours. And what do I think about the Tamiya BBX after building one? Yeah, I really like it. It screams Tamiya. I get the feeling that maybe that was even their kind of goal when they did the BBX, to kind of hark back to what they were really good at. And they've absolutely nailed it. Now, I wouldn't say it's the first Tamiya I would go after if you've never built a kit before, but a second build would definitely be something like this. The scale, I love it. I love what they've done with it. It's a very character car, which is exactly what Tamiya is all about. You know, don't get one of these if you want to take it to the track, but if you want to blast around in the garden or you've got a beach to go to, then I think, yeah, you can't really go wrong with it. Love all the screws, Allen bolts all the way through. Downside, some of the plastics are a little bit soft. So when you fit them, you got to be a little bit careful from that side. Otherwise, you might round off a few. There's loads of upgrades for this already, which is really good to see. And I can understand. I love the rear trailing arm style and the suspension straight out of the box. If you build it as per the manual, is really good. That's bang on. I really like that, so that is really nice. And if you're blasting it across the beach or something, you're going to really enjoy yourself. The one tip that I would give you after building one myself, make sure you put the electronics in it as per the manual. Don't put them in afterwards, bit like what I did. It's a bit of a faff. You can't really remove the side cages. You can remove the back to get access to the motor. That's not too bad. You still got to take these side pod bits off. Then you've got to take the uprights and then the back section off. So it's still a little bit of a faff to get in there to the motor and stuff, especially if you're going to like solder it up, which is what I did. But the big one is you've got your receiver and ESC tucked down in the middle. And apart from taking out that top rail that goes across here, access is very limited. And then when you're trying to put the driver over, it can get a little bit tight in there. The actual body itself, cutting it out, not too much of an issue. Decals, they're okay as well. There is a few little things I'd like to have seen them address that I think they kind of made little mistakes, but these are tiny. The first one is, you see this rainbow kind of color that goes around here. Well, it goes down the sides, but because they actually curved it that way, it doesn't allow the red to go down the side. If they'd have opened this curve up and gone a bit lower, you could have got the red, the orange and the yellow. And I think it would look better to have the red, the orange and the yellow going along here. Whereas as you can see from the here, the red disappears completely, but then reappears at the back. That is what I would change differently. Also, there's little tiny uprights stickers that go on here, and they're missing the white, which is really odd. There's no white, so it kind of jumps up. So there's a tiny little sticker that goes in there. Doesn't really make much difference. And looking at people, some people leave it off altogether. Apart from that, the rest of the stickers go on really, really easy. Now, I did think about doing this big sticker at the front using the water technique where you spray the water on, but because you can line it up so well at the tops here, it was really easy. As long as you line it up with these top corners, it will lay flat, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Otherwise, if you didn't have that, you'd probably want to do it with water to get it in the right spot. Color wise, I'm really happy with it. It was a color that I haven't actually seen one of these in, so yeah, it makes my idea of thinking about going for this color was it's very retro, but also I wanted these colors to really pop and stand out, which I think it actually did, and it does look very retro. If I was keeping this one, I'd probably look at doing something with the wheels. Maybe I would smoke them or just change them for some sort of, see if I could find something that would like alloy ones, get rid of the bling a little bit. I do like the tires though, I must admit. Right, I think that pretty much covers everything. So we've got one thing left to do before someone wins this, and that's take it for a gentle little blast around just to see how it behaves. So we're out with the BBX and we're going to take it for a gentle run. We're not going to blast it. I didn't put a massively powerful brushless motor in it and then rag the life out of it, because on this channel we are more sophisticated than some of others that maybe we could mention. We're not hooligans here, and plus this is going off to someone, so I don't want to abuse it and get tons of mud all over it when they win it. But you guys seem to quite like that stuff, as his channel's rather large. Anyway, on that epiphany, let's ignore it and just take it for a bit of a run and see how it goes. So after having a bit of a blast around, what's my honest opinion of it? Well, it's classic Tamiya. Gorgeous looking. I mean, it even sounds like a Tamiya. but I haven't got tons of power in this one. I'm just blasting it around, which is perfect if you want to drive around in these kind of conditions, or if you're driving around in your back garden. I think where this will really sell itself is if you can take it down to the beach. I don't think the bearings will thank you for it, but it would be just a blast tearing it up on the sand. Now, driving it around here, it's understeering like crazy. Those front tyres just don't bite into the wet tarmac, which is kind of what you expect. But the back was fine. It was actually gripping reasonably well, so it was very easy to drive in this kind of conditions. It wasn't just spinning out every time I leaned on the throttle at all, and it would slide nicely. So I do like these rear tyres and rear wheels. The fronts, not so great. I probably would swap out those tyres if you're going to drive around on tarmac a bit more. Now, I'm going to be a bit controversial on this one, and I'm going to say that I wouldn't really do many upgrades to this car. It was actually driving really well as it is. The only thing I probably would do would put a slipper in and a gear diff. Apart from that, bearings, and you're kind of set. The car drives really good out the box, and maybe a set of front tyres depending on what you're actually driving on. No! Now, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Yeah, I really like it. Well done, Tamiya. It's probably the release over the last 12 months that I've been the most kind of happy with that they've done. There's been a few that have been very mediocre, but this, being that it was a scratch built idea, I think they really nailed it and they're onto something. I hope this does well for them, that we see maybe a different version of this, fast attack version or something maybe, or slight different changes, because it would be a shame if they went to all this trouble to make this whole chassis and then we never saw it in a different kind of formula, if you will. But there you go. So someone is going to win this, and it's not going to be me. So if you would like to enter the competition to win this, I'll put a link in the description, and good luck. You haven't got long, and then this is going to be finding its way into someone else's collection. You lucky person, you. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe. See you on the next one.